Hey guys, it's Paul here. Just wanted to throw a quick note at the beginning of this episode. We're calling this episode 1. You'll hear us talking about an earlier podcast, but we're just going to make that episode 0 and put it up at a later time. So enjoy the episode, and here we go. Talking to your microphone, just say some stuff.
Eating some Cheerios right now because I know that's what the people want.
Do some pops. Get some pops in there. Talk about potatoes and
potatoes
penguins.
And pancakes are pretty pleasurable.
Positively.
Prosperator.
Pulchritudinous.
Pulling.
Pop. I popped a pimple on Peter Piper's pecker.
Ew.
And we're live. So, what's the name of this podcast again? The Chris Pratt Effect?
Can we make it that?
Yeah, I'm totally. I think I wrote that down, and I didn't bring it up on the last episode.
Movie for You was something we're working with for a bit.
Oh yeah, it was movie for you, like for Nathan for you. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I wrote it down though before the last episode, and I didn't bring it up. And then I was looking through my notes, and I saw that, and I was like, damn, I should have brought that up because it was all I wrote. I put possible podcast names, and then I put the Chris Pratt Effect, and then I stopped. And I was like, that's probably good enough, right? Like,
I kind of want to go with that. It's really funny.
The Chris Pratt Effect is a good name for a podcast.
Yeah.
And I think either Chris Pratt will endorse us, or he will lambast us. Uh-huh. And all press is good press, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or he will just want us to promote his hunting.
I think that I want to promote him being in more Jurassic Park movies.
No.
I want him. I won't be happy until Chris Pratt is the only male actor that's cast in a movie.
Mm-hmm. I think we should promote his switch to Scientology. Yeah, because
isn't he like honorary Scientology? Like, don't they invite him to stuff?
Probably
because of Guardians of the Galaxy and shit. Like,
exactly.
Okay, yeah, because Guardians of the Galaxy is a very Scientology friendly movie. Like, they love that movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. L. Ron Hubbard is in the movie. Yep. Yeah.
The themes are all there.
He's actually in the background in the collector scene, He's like under glass.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and going, yes.
A nice subtle reference there, Marvel. We all know you were sold out to the Scientology for a long time.
So yeah, this is the podcast. It's the Chris Pratt Effect, guys. It's a podcast about movies mostly. I think we talk about TV shows too. We talked about that last time, and then Nathan for You came up, and then we came up with the first stage name.
We're two people who decided to start a podcast. It's very revolutionary. No one's ever done this before.
I think we're the first people to make not just a podcast about movies, but to express opinions about movies.
Yeah, nobody does that.
I go out in public and I say, have you seen Toy Story? Have you seen, in movies everybody's seen? I ask them, and then they say, yes, I've seen that movie. And I go, what did you think? And they say, I don't know.
Uh-huh.
No one ever knows. So I just am glad that we're being brave and expressing opinions about movies. Speaking of, so the idea last podcast we talked about the format being kind of like, talking about modern stuff we've seen lately, and then doing the recommendation for you, hence the movie for you name. It was like we each picked a movie that we, the other person had not seen and recommended it to them. Unfortunately, we are in a situation where we have not both seen the movies that we recommended on the last podcast. So what we're going to do is we're just going to do a different thing in place of that. So yeah, last week it was Fantasia and Fully Cooley. Not last week, Jesus, it was months ago. But last episode it was Fantasia and Fully Cooley. I was supposed to watch Fantasia. Brett was going to watch Fully Cooley. So we're just going to put that on next episode. That'll we're going to pinky promise that here and now with you, the audience, all 0 of you that we have so far, because we haven't made any content out of this yet. But it's coming anyway. Yeah, so
I heard the L. Ron Hubbard supports this podcast.
yeah,
already.
I actually got a letter from him recently. And he
Nice.
said, "You're doing a great job. I love the podcast. Keep up the good work." And he signed it, L. Ron Hubbard, and he kissed it.
Nice.
There's a little smooch on there. He put on it was a pink lipstick, which I thought was I expected red. You always expect red, and no, he put a nice little pale pink on there. It was really delicate and nice.
I've heard if you bottle up his spit and put it on eBay, it sells for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I think we should do that.
I already have the eBay shop. If you can get the resources, I will
We're
just
selling
put it on there.
L. Ron Hubbard spit. That's just what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
All right. So last episode, we talked about Skinamarink, didn't we?
Yeah, the greatest film ever made by humans.
Oof. Not even ironically. No. Did we talk about Cocaine Bear, or had we not seen that yet?
We hadn't seen Cocaine Bear yet.
So we hadn't seen really any of the movies that I have here on my list.
Look, Cocaine Bear is worse than Skinamarink.
We're gonna. Oh shit. Oh boy. Okay. Oh man. All right. So I'm gonna sidebar that and say that here's the movies we have not talked about yet, at least according to this list I have. Okay. Cocaine Bear, Megan Mithrigan, if you will.
We talked about Mithrigan, I'm pretty sure, on the last podcast.
I thought that was gonna be a. Oh yeah, no, we did. Okay, you're right. So scratch that off the list. That's done. 65. We haven't talked about that. Knock at the Cabin. Did we talk about that?
No.
One? Yeah, because it was an out there.
No.
Inside. I saw that. You have not seen that. Beau is Afraid. We'll get there. A Good Person.
I didn't see it.
Oh, that's right. You haven't seen that yet. Okay. So scratch that off for now. Evil Dead Rise. 80 for Brady. Dungeons and Dragons. And Infinity Pool.
Haven't seen Infinity Pool yet either.
Okay, we'll scratch that one off.
So
that's pretty much the list of stuff that I have here as far as recent things I've seen that we have not talked about.
let me see for mine. I've seen John Wick Chapter 4. You haven't seen that yet?
Nope.
I've seen the Super Mario Bros. Movie. Rye Lane.
Nope.
Missing.
I mean, I want to see all three of those. Missing, I'm whatever about.
Yeah, I mean, Scream 6. Air.
Gonna pass on that one.
Shazam 2. And Renfield. Yeah, so those ones I've seen that you haven't.
Okay. Well, honestly, Renfield, I would like to hear your thoughts on it because I know you saw it and you didn't like it. I have almost no motivation to watch that movie. So I'm just gonna, if you want to talk about it, go ahead.
Okay, sure. It's the worst movie of the year so far.
Oh.
It's maybe the worst movie ever made. No, maybe that's a little exaggerated.
A little bit of a stretch.
Here's what I'll say. The movie starts, okay? And Nicholas Hoult, the guy who plays Renfield, goes, "My name is Renfield, and this is a story of my life through narration." It sounded like how I started every single story I would write in third grade, but it's like a professional Hollywood movie.
So that's a good tone setter then. Like,
I was like, oh no, we're in for it. And it just progressively got worse from there. You guys don't know who Ben Schwartz is.
Yeah.
He's a comedian.
he was John Ralphio on Parks and Recreation.
Yeah. And he is good in Middleditch and Schwartz, which is a Netflix improv series that's very good. You should check out. He plays a mobster in this movie. Like, that's supposed to be, like, a big, tough guy. And he's played by Ben Schwartz. Like think about a role that Dave Bautista should probably be playing. And it's cast by Ben Schwartz. And he literally has dialogue that's like, "I'm an evil man that does drug." And I'm not even kidding. That's about what he sounds like.
Okay.
And Awkwafina is in it, everyone's favorite actress. She plays a cop.
What does that sound? Oh, okay. I think there's a cat stuck in a room. You can continue. I'm listening, I promise. I'm just setting the mic down.
Okay. Nicolas Cage is okay.
Yeah.
The thing about Nicolas Cage in the movie, here's my thing with him at this point.
Okay. So that was fun. So yeah, my cat got into. So we lived together. And my cat got into his room, into his closet.
And she was not ready to come out of the closet. Not quite yet.
No, yeah, not at all. But yeah, she got herself in a box, and we, yeah. So that was cool. But back to Renfield, the distraction it deserved.
It really does. So here's my estimation on Nicolas Cage. Okay. His campy performances all are so incredibly entertaining because the movie itself is wanting them to be serious. So there's something kind of authentic about that. Something like Renfield is wanting him to be over the top Nicolas Cage because it's like, oh, look how funny it would be if Dracula was Nicolas Cage. And I think when it's done there, it comes off as cloying and kind of cringy other than endearing, like it is when it's unintentional.
Yeah, I get what you mean because I see him in some things and like it works for that, and then other things the exact same type of Nicolas Cage does not work for that movie.
Yeah, but unlike something like Evil Dead Rise, which we'll get into, I think its violence, this movie's violence and its action is chopped up so horribly that it's kind of incomprehensible.
Well, even in the trailers, it looked like a messy fucking movie, honestly. Just like the action from the trailers, I couldn't tell what was supposed to be happening very clearly, which always bugs me in an action scene.
Yeah.
Did that come across throughout the rest of the movie, too?
Totally. And then this all looks like it's on a green screen, like everything.
Oh.
It looks gross. So it's just like bad. And not only that, I just feel like it's...
Here's what I want to know. How much of that whole, like, support group scene, how long was that support group scene? Because they marketed the hell out of that scene to where I felt like that was what most of the movie was.
So it's multiple scenes.
Okay.
It's not just one scene. It's a reoccurring bit.
Oh, is it like the framing device for the movie?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That's why, you know how I'm like, I'm Renfield, and that's how I got here.
And
it all cuts to him in that therapy group, and then
I thought that might be what they were going to do with it, just because it's like I said, it seemed like they got so much footage from that in the trailer.
You're never going to watch this movie, are you?
No.
Okay.
Like I have no desire.
Listening audience, I'm about to spoil something that happens in Renfield.
Spoilers for the masterpiece Renfield coming up.
That drove me insane.
Okay.
There's a sequence in Renfield. You see the beginning of it in the trailer where Nicolas Cage shows up to the...
If you hear a licking sound, that's going to be my dog licking Brett's hand. So
yeah,
don't think I'm, while Brett's talking, licking my paws. That's my dog.
Okay. Anyways, so a framing device of the movie is he's actually going to these support groups because he kind of wants to be Dexter. So essentially, these people are talking about their abusive codependencies they're in. And he's like, look, I'm in an abusive codependency. With that being said, I can get these people out of their toxic codependencies if... I can get people out of these toxic codependencies if I killed these people that these people are with, and I feed them to Dracula. And so that's a framing device of why he's going to these meetings, is he's finding targets, okay? Which I think is kind of interesting, at least. You could see it thematically go through later. That being said, it ends up becoming a big mob heist thing, and it barely ends up being a part of the movie. But there's a sequence where finally Renfield starts to turn on Dracula, and he's not a fan of him the entire movie, obviously, but he starts to actually be like, hey, look, we need to stop this. This isn't cool. I want to stop killing people. And Dracula figures out where his support group is at. All right. So there's a scene. It's the one in the trailer where he's like out there and he's like, "Yeah, I'm Dracula. Let's eat." And he brutally kills everyone in the support group. Like brutally murders all of them. Now, I am not one that is like offended by violence in movies usually. I'm not. I'm not one of these people. That sequence I thought was an incredibly poor taste because throughout the whole movie we're talking about how these people are in these awful situations and they're trying to find comfort and stuff. And then we have a sequence where it's Nicolas Cage as a vampire killing these people in brutally funny, gory ways. And I was like, it made me feel kind of gross. And that's when the movie became a 1 star to a half star. And I was like, yeah, no, I just don't subscribe to anything this movie is doing. That being said, they are all brought back to life at the end because Dracula's blood can resurrect them all and I guess put their limbs back together. They don't really say that because he pulls limbs off, but they don't ever deal with that. I guess the blood just magically reforms them. So there's that. But in the moment, it still feels weird. So that was a big, like, that was my least favorite part of it. Not that I liked the rest of the movie. I think it was all bad and dumb. But, like, it was like at a cocaine bear until that scene, and then it was worse than a cocaine bear at that part. Okay. But, yeah, would not recommend it. It's bombing at the box office. I am an aspiring filmmaker. I really want movies to do well. I hardly ever want a movie to do poorly. I was very satisfied. Very satisfied to see that it only made $7 million. And I usually don't say stuff like that. But I'm just like, no, we don't need more movies like this. This needs to be the only Renfield type movie that exists.
Well, I that was my thing with that movie was that I didn't care. Nothing about that spoke to me at all. I mean, we're past like the Twilight fatigue with vampires where it's kind of okay to use vampires in a movie again, I think. And this was not a good step in that direction because it felt like a movie that would have came out back in the Twilight Mania days. Like, I didn't see it, but I'm saying, like, I feel like a trailer like that would have sold the shit out of that movie back in the days when every movie was vampires, you know?
Yeah.
Not every movie, but I'm sure, like, Twilight heydays, essentially.
There would have been Renfield fan cams.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Especially with Nicholas Hoult being in there, you would have had a bunch of girls, like, fangirling over him and stuff, probably. I think this movie's too late for everything that it wanted to do. And I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care about seeing Nicholas Hoult as Renfield. I don't care about seeing Nicolas Cage as Dracula. It's boring. If I want to see Nicolas Cage as a freaked out vampire, I will watch Vampire's Kiss because that movie is fucking amazing and hilarious. It is one of the most like memed Nicolas Cage. Have you seen that movie?
I haven't seen it, but I know the scene you're talking about.
Though. It's multiple
anything.
scenes.
Yeah.
There's a million scenes from that movie. The one where he's dragging the thing down the street screaming, and the one where he's like, "I never misfiled anything, not once."
Yeah, that's the scene I know.
That's but there's
great.
a bunch. The one where he's all like that big ass grin and he looks all creepy. That's from that movie. And you know what it is? It's because he meets some random woman who like. He's like a cocaine addict and he like meets this woman and does cocaine with her and then she turns him into a vampire. Maybe, I don't know. Like the movie doesn't tell you basically it's just Nicolas Cage losing his mind on cocaine and thinking he's a vampire. And I'm not spoiling anything by saying thinking he's a vampire because the whole movie is him not sure if he's a vampire or not. Yeah. Like he can't tell. And it's great because he's just like this wealthy businessman who's like blown out on coke. And just like losing his mind. Way better concept than Renfield, taking an old idea. That's the thing. A movie like that probably wouldn't get made today, even though Cocaine Bear got made. But well, okay, let's segue into Cocaine Bear. What better way to do that?
Okay. It's a movie that certainly was made and exists. the bear did cocaine, and they didn't have a rest of the movie to do anything with.
I'll say this. I know you know this. I was like cautiously excited for that movie. I was like, maybe it'll be just a dumb, fun, turn your brain off, watch a bear do cocaine and kill people kind of movie. And that's what the movie presented itself as. It's what the movie kind of tried to be. But at the end of the day, that movie was boring. It was a boring movie. I wasn't entertained.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because, I mean, the stuff when the bear did cocaine and kill people, it was pretty fun. But that's maybe 10 minutes of the movie.
Right. I think if you put it all together into a supercut, it would probably be no more than 15 minutes of the whole runtime.
And the movie's, hour 40?
It's a very tight, 90, 100 minutes or something like that. Yeah. Here, let me look it up.
Yeah, because...
That's why I pulled this up, right? All right. Cocaine Bear is 96 minutes.
See, It feels like 2 hours.
It felt way longer than 96 minutes, that's for sure.
Because everything that involved a human in that movie was trash.
It was boring.
Boring and stupid and bad.
The characters were not fun or funny. The only character that kind of was a little fun was the detective guy. He was the only good thing about that movie, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Everything else kind of sucked. Gary Russell was kind of bad, unfortunately. Those kid actors were straight up obnoxious. They probably would have died from doing the amount of cocaine that they did, or at least had a pretty bad time, and maybe I'm not an expert on this stuff, but I don't think that children can or should consume a large quantity of cocaine like that and then go about the rest of this runtime acting like they didn't just eat a bunch of cocaine. It didn't make sense.
I want Paul to go up to Congress and be like, I don't think kids should eat large amounts of cocaine.
Yes, it's a controversial opinion, but I stand by it, okay?
Yeah.
Don't give kids cocaine.
It's 2023. I think it's about time that we say that. We really just don't think kids should be taking large amounts of drugs.
It's bad enough that Fortnite exists. We don't need to add cocaine to the mix.
Yeah.
It's not worth it. Yeah, no, I mean, I think we've basically said everything there is to say about Cocaine Bear, because I think we have officially put more thought into analyzing it than the writers did into the script.
Yeah, no, it feels like, and we talked about this the other day, that some movies are being pitched right now for its memeability, and then they don't have a movie around the fact that it's just a log line. They just have the log line, and that's it.
They have a cool synopsis that will get asses into the seats, but they do not have a well thought out enough script to keep the asses in the seats for the right reasons. Oh, I'll say this, though, about Cocaine Bear. I was sitting next to their exact target audience, apparently. Brett was sitting next to me, but on the other seat that we didn't buy a ticket for was some random guy. And he was there more for the cocaine than the bear, I would say. Because he really loved just watching that bear eat cocaine, man. He kept laughing so hard. He was laughing really hard. He would, or, if the bear was doing something crazy, he'd be like, oh shit, man. He's the kind of guy that when I think of, especially having seen Cocaine Bear, when I think of who that movie was made for, it was that guy. That guy was the target audience, and he got exactly what he wanted. And I think he was a little bit mad at me for leaving before the end credits scene. He's like, what, this movie's still going on? And I'm like, not in my mind, it's not. This movie's been over for a long time. They what was the end credits thing where that one random fucking guy, oh, it turns out he's still alive. It's I didn't care.
Yeah.
I did not care whether he was alive or dead. It was not important to me at all.
I was oh yeah, that guy is a thing. He exists.
That was exactly. Did they? I don't know. But have you heard that there's all these other movies that they're trying to do? That it's Cocaine Tiger or some shit, where it's pretty similar story to what happened to Cocaine Bear. Yeah, it's another based on true events or whatever. I am not going to see that. I will not see it. You'd have to really cram some good names in there for me to give a shit about seeing that movie.
Bath Salt's Chicken would be really good.
Oh boy, is that a thing?
No.
Oh, okay. But
Can you imagine?
I would watch that.
We should make it a thing.
Bath salts chicken.
Bath salts chicken.
We could in an afternoon come up with a better script for bath salts chicken than the writers did for Cocaine Bear.
I think we should do it. I think we should challenge it. Make bath salts chicken.
I'm down to collaborate on a bath salts chicken script, and we can just like maybe even do an episode where we do a live read of that and, and see what people think. And maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll get made. Bath salts chicken.
Yeah, let's go. 824, hit us up.
Oh wait, Kenny Rogers already has chicken restaurants. We might get sued.
I know when to hold them.
I know when to fold them.
Okay.
And speaking of folding them, here's a segue, and I just did that. So I'm looking at Letterboxd. I'm looking at the list, and I'm looking at this picture of Adam Driver on. Oh, it's 65. Sorry, it's not the Lost World Jurassic Park. I was a little confused because of the poster because, like, they have the exact scene. You remember that scene in the Lost World Jurassic Park where they're behind a waterfall and there's a T-Rex? And then they did it again in 65. That was kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
That's why we go to the movies, is to see the other movies happen again.
Exactly. That's what Nicole Kidman's talking to us about at the beginning of the AMC.
That's why the only good part of The Fabelmans was like other movies being shown, and also the only good part of Babylon was that sequence at the end with Avatar in it. Because I only like when I see a movie that I already am familiar with. I don't like different stuff. And so when I saw this, I saw 65. I was like, good. There's nothing new here. Nothing scary at all about this.
Did you hear that they're making a sequel to the AMC intro?
Yeah.
And Nicole Kidman's going to go up, sit in the chair, and then they're going to play the entirety of 65 before every single movie. It's going to logistically, like, not make much sense, but I think they're going really for the art for it, you know?
Yeah, I think so. Earlier today, someone said during the AMC pledge at the end of it, they said, do you think Nicole Kidman has ever even actually been to a fucking movie theater? And I was like, probably not.
I mean, it's probably been 20 years now, right?
Who knows? Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think she's been to an AMC movie theater recently? Absolutely not. If she's seeing a movie, she's seeing it privately. It's
probably so, or like a premiere or something, maybe. Yeah, 65. We talked about it. I think we move on at this point.
Yeah.
So we got some other ones to talk about here, but I think what do we want to do? Do we want to do our list thing and then talk about like the kind of heavier hitting movies?
Yeah, I think we should do. Look, the list is going to translate. It's going to transition really well into discussing those movies. Because spoiler alert, a couple of the movies we really want to talk about are pretty high on my list.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
me too. My list is probably going to be a little controversial. It may change. I don't know. So you're saying we should go do the list, and then are we doing?
We could bring up Knock at the Cabin real quick just to say that like it's kind of just fine.
It was fine. I wasn't mad at it, but I didn't just love it. I was like, all right.
I don't really know what I was trying to say at the ending, and the rest of the film didn't really have anything to hook me.
It didn't. I don't think the movie had a message, really, despite the fact that it wanted to. It really seemed like it wanted to have some kind of message about, like, family or, like, about tolerance, maybe. I don't know. That's the thing. I've thought about it for a while. I'm like, what was that movie talking about? What was that movie about thematically?
Society.
I guess.
Well, I also think if you deep a little too close into it, maybe what it's saying is bad.
Yeah, maybe the message it's conveying is just not worth listening to, and that's why it's so incoherent.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Knock at the Cabin. That is a movie that happened. Yeah. So we'll talk about our lists now. Do we want to? I'll let you go first. You go for it.
Okay.
I've done a lot of talking the last few minutes. So
I'll say I kind of switching 5 back and forth, back and forth. I'll say right now that
So you're going 5-1.
I'm going 5-1.
Okay.
I'll say right now that my honorable mention is Rye Lane. I really like that movie. I think it's a delightful little romance film that's in a similar vein of the Before trilogy, but if it was shot by Edgar Wright, that's probably the best thing we could do. Really cool, really interesting. That being said, I probably had realistically more fun with my number 5, which is the Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Okay.
This movie is kind of being, I would say, trashed by critics a little bit. I mean, it's kind of a sensation. It's making so much money, and its audience is really loving it, going back to see it multiple times. The big thing about this movie, the big complaint that I hear people say is like, well, there's no story. Okay? Number one, the story is very simple. It's literally just Mario going to save Luigi because he gets kidnapped by Bowser. Kind of like every single Mario game that's ever existed on the face of the planet. Not only that, kind of like a lot of interesting animation. Can you tell me what the plot of Beatles' Yellow Submarine is? I really doubt you could do that.
I think there was like
Blue Meanies.
yeah, there was Blue Meanies, and I know for a fact there was a Yellow Submarine because I saw the movie and I saw it in there, and I was a little nervous it wouldn't happen. But no, I don't think I can summarize that movie.
Exactly.
Actually, I'm kind of curious. I want to see what Letterboxd summarizes it as, like what they're.
Here's my point with the Mario movie. If you go into that movie wanting kind of trippy animation, really cool world building.
So the animation is good. I haven't seen it. I know I said that earlier. Just want to be clear.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Humor that doesn't just come from, oh, ha, fart. Like actual genuine fun humor. And nods to a whole bunch of Nintendo properties you're nostalgic for. I think it's a really good time. I think it is Illumination really stepping up and showing you, look, we can make movies that don't feel like they're The Secret Life of Pets or Sing or these formulaic kiddie movies, you know? Like, I think this transcends that. And I was impressed with it. I will defend it probably through the rest of the year. I'm
going to see it soon. I just like have had a lot going on, and my AMC reservations were pretty booked up, but because I had that double feature today. So now I should be good because I have 2 free reservations to use anytime I want.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, there's a few things I need to go catch up on. I do really want to see Rye Lane. I want to see Mario. I want to see what's something else that's out that I haven't gotten a chance to watch yet. I know there's something I'm missing, but Mario's pretty high on the list. Rye Lane's pretty high on the list. So am I doing my 5 now, or are you doing your 4, or did you have more you wanted to say?
Yeah, you can do your 5 now if you want to do it back and forth.
Let me go back to my list here. All right. So my number 5 is Infinity Pool, a movie you haven't seen. But I really liked it, and it was cool to see a movie that wasn't just a tie-in to something. Yes, it's technically got that Cronenberg nepotism there, whatever, but I care less about that so much as the fact that the story isn't tied to something we already know. I always like that. I like when it's something too that's not afraid to be a little weird, and this movie definitely is very weird. I would not just recommend it to everybody because it's kind of it's like a dark, dirty, sexy kind of like there's some body horror in it too. But it's not just like a gross movie. It's not like, I would say it's like really well balanced because you've got like a lot of horror elements, but you've got like also this like suspense and thriller and just like kind of like there's a moment where it just becomes very visually interesting. There's like a lot of cool effects happening with like some refracted light and stuff, and it's all while this character's having sort of a head trip or a hallucination. I always like a good scene where like, you know, head trips and hallucinations are done well. Think like Midsummer when like she's like you can see the grass breathing or whatever, and like everything's kind of pulsing and moving. They did that really well on Beef also. We haven't talked about that at all much, but that's a really good one. Check that out. Yeah, I just love when they do stuff like that really well. There was a good sequence of that in Infinity Pool. But, of course, the star of the show is Mia Goth because she's fucking amazing. I have not seen Mia Goth do anything less than spectacular work in anything I've seen her in. Like, she steals the show every time.
Yeah.
She's so good in X. She's really fucking good in Pearl. Like, life-changingly good. And in
like,
this
should have been nominated for an Oscar. Go.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like, she just was that character. That's not Mia Goth. That's Pearl. You know, like, I love when that happens.
That freeze frame at the end, though, it's just...
There is no freeze frame.
Well,
that's
no,
the
I mean,
thing.
that's her,
that long hold
that's what I'm
is
saying,
like, here you go, Mia Goth, 6 minutes, smile and cry. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And she did it, and she fucking nailed it. She's so good. And she's really good in this, too. Like, just steals the show. Because I will say, I gave this like a 4.5 star rating out of 5. And that really the main thing holding it back from being a 5-star for me was truly the lead actor. And I don't have any issues with his performance so much as maybe it was the character, maybe it was the actor, but I felt like anybody could have done what he did in that movie. And you know, it's just like, especially when it's him and Mia Goth, he's might as well be invisible. He didn't matter. Yeah. So, but that kind of plays into the themes of the movie too. So it works. If it didn't work with what the movie was saying, I would have held that against it and probably given it like 4 stars instead of 4.5. But yeah, it's a really good movie. I don't have a lot of bad things to say about it, other than just like the lead actor was kind of. That's about it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, my number 4 is John Wick Chapter 4. There you go.
Okay.
4 and 4.
I thought our 4s would match up, but go ahead.
No. So, John Wick Chapter 4 is like being lauded as like one of the year's best movies from a lot of people. Here's what I'll say about it. It is an action masterpiece. Legitimately, every single action set piece in this thing is so euphoric and so thoughtfully well done. It's just to the moment where I'm like, I can't believe that they set that up. I can't, like, it's a reason why stunt choreography should be an Oscar thing. Like, should be something you can get nominated for an Oscar for. It should be a category.
Something that gets acknowledged more, no doubt.
Because it is insane to think about how on earth they staged all of these stunts. Crazy.
I think it's just crazy that there's not more choreography awards in general. Just like think about like back when they were more focused on stuff like think about a movie like Singing in the Rain. How are you going to award someone for the hard work it took to make all that shit happen?
Yeah.
There wasn't an award for it. I think there should be. I have a lot of respect for choreographers because that shit is insanely complicated. You're moving bodies in real time in a limited space. It's just so crazy to think about how somebody could even make that happen.
Yeah. I think people just think, oh, well, it's a directing thing. But it's like, there's still a choreographer that does stuff like that, you know. Mm-hmm. Regardless, that cinematography is some of the best I've seen of recent memory. Beautiful production design. I mean, just immaculate stuff. It is just like such a solid put together movie. I've seen every John Wick movie.
Yeah. I
really like the first one. 2 and 3 I didn't really care for. I really like 4.
Have you seen the movie Nobody? With it's got Bob Odenkirk.
I haven't actually, but I've heard it's great.
I'll just very quickly say it's the same, a lot of the same people as John Wick.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good movie. I think I gave it like a 4. Yeah. I liked it. It's a more wholesome John Wick. It's not a wholesome movie, but it's just like it's Bob Odenkirk versus Keanu Reeves. You can
Yeah.
imagine, you know. It's a fun movie, not amazing, but still pretty good and good, really good stunt work.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I guess why it's only number 4 on my list, it's just because, like, I have no real emotional attachment to John Wick as a character. I think,
I'm the same way. I really do love the movies, but I just like
yeah,
if you know they announced tomorrow that this is the last John Wick movie, which of course they're not going to do. I would just be like, okay, well they had a good run, like it was good movies.
yeah. Well, I mean, no, I won't say that. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. If it's a spoiler, then,
It's a spoiler.
But yeah, avoid the spoilers because that is one of the movies I do really want to see soon.
Yeah.
I do love those movies, and I just again haven't had time for everything I want to see.
Yeah, it's really good. I think this action filmmaking standpoint is absolutely perfect. I think has really stunning scenes in it. But this is another thing I'll say. I'd like to see it again at some point because it is like almost 3 hours of nonstop action, and it's a lot. It's overload. It really is. It's a lot to take in. It's a lot to see. It does get a little tiring in that regard, but regardless, is a really cool movie. So yeah.
All right. Is that did you got anything else you want to say about John Wick 4 as your 4 spot?
No, I'll keep it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, in that case, I'll say my number 4, and it is Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. I really liked this movie. I was honestly really when I think the first time I ever knew anything about this being a thing was I saw like that big promotional display at AMC. Obviously, not everybody listening knows what I'm talking about, but it was like a big cardboard cutout stand-up display of all the characters and junk. And I saw it and I kind of cringed and I said, "Damn, not another Dungeons and Dragons movie," because they did one back in the 2000s and it was hot garbage. And I just didn't see it going much better than that. I really liked this movie though. And I was, once I saw that John Francis Daley was directing it and kind of got a little more in touch with what the movie was going to be like, I was way more on board. I liked that it was a small personal story that ended up becoming something grander and more complicated, because a lot of the times when people want to make a fantasy movie, especially a Dungeons and Dragons story, they want to make it the most biggest, epicest thing that most ever happened ever to the most epicest guy ever. And Chris Pine's character is not some big epic dude. He's a bard. He's like a cool dude, but he's not like some epic sword brandishing hero. He's not some chivalric knight. He's a fucking guy. And I like that about this movie. I really liked a lot of the set pieces were really cool. There was a lot of good practical effects, which I love seeing in a movie in 2023. So very much. Not everything was practical, of course, and the stuff that wasn't, I noticed, but it's fine. I appreciate that there was some practical stuff. I appreciated that the sets were so, the sets felt real. It didn't feel like you were just they were standing in some green screen room. Yeah, some of the background stuff maybe, but like the stuff in the immediate vicinity.
Oh, but it feels more like practical.
Yeah.
That
was cool. I love that about this movie. And again, it's just like I gave it 4.5 stars, and the main thing, my biggest criticism of the whole movie, this is in my review on Letterboxd and everything, is just that I still can't believe that they actually said, "Glad he's on our side" in a movie, unironically, in 2023. And they of all people, they gave that line to Michelle Rodriguez, and I felt bad for her in that moment. I did. Because I'm like, do they want people to not like her?
Maybe they did it as the joke. Like they're like, we know we have Michelle Rodriguez in this, so let's have her say the hokiest line we could potentially think of.
Yeah, but it like sort of transcended that to become unfunny again. Where I'm just like, why did they do that? But I know that's a silly, stupid nitpick, but it stuck with me. I still think about that. I still think about that sometimes. Where I'm just like, why did they say that? They could have just not done it. They didn't have to put a line there, and they did it. But it's fine. And Michelle Rodriguez was not my favorite part of the movie either. She's not a bad actress, but they typecast her as the no nonsense hard ass. But she had a little bit of heart in this movie, which that was cool. Her character, it was a little bit of a softie for Chris Pine's daughter, which I liked that. Thank God for that.
Cute. Really cute moment at the end when they were. Yeah, I love that.
That saved her character for me. Like that whole arc of her being a total softie for the daughter, that saved that character. I know that's a pretty easy way to add character development. Oh, just make them be nice to one person. But it was nice. Like she's a hard ass, but she's not like acting like a hard ass with this girl because she knows that she's not like that. She's just a kid. So she's like, it's nice. It's just a nice character beat. Is this movie anywhere on your list of the year?
So my number 3.
Oh, okay, cool, okay.
Yeah, we can just continue.
Yeah, we'll just like make it a back and forth at this point.
Yeah.
My bad. I felt like it was gonna be on your list, and
it was my number 1 up until 2 days ago.
Oh.
Yeah, no, I genuinely kind of love this movie. I think it's great. I think it is in the Marvelification of current Hollywood. Felt like it was something that was genuine and honest and uncynical, and I thought that was really cool. I thought when they were going to make a Dungeons and Dragons movie, we were going to have Chris Pratt wink at us every second and be like, look how dumb we are.
The Chris Pratt effect.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Chris Pratt effect. Hey, we're trademarking that, guys.
Be the Chris Pratt effect. I totally did. And this movie
because that's what that is, right? Like, yeah. It's the non-Chris Pratt effect, and thank God.
I mean, everything about this movie is so sincere.
It's charming.
Dungeons and Dragons, and its humor comes from the fact that Dungeons and Dragons is silly and weird, and they love doing it. And it's wonderful. And I think, like you said, all these movies, like I was talking about Renfield earlier, that just all looks like they were just kind of slopped onto a computer. There is actually lush sets. There's beautiful environments. There's legitimate shot composition.
Real lived-in places.
Lived-in places. Beautiful color grading. Wonderful practical effects throughout. Great creature designs.
Yep.
Literally inventive creature designs. Of the dragon is even unique. The dragon's very memorable in a good way, like in a really solid way.
It's like funny, interesting. It kept you kind of going like, "Oh boy, what's gonna happen?" Yeah. Like it was a cool moment. Like,
Hugh Grant gets to play the villain role in Paddington 2 once again. And I can watch him do that forever. He's great.
I was nervous about Hugh Grant in this movie because I'm nervous about Hugh Grant in any movie. I don't dislike the guy. But anyway, point being, like, I was happy to see him take on. Spoiler alert! Sorry, we should have said this a while ago, but yeah, I was happy to see him take on the whole villain role. It was cool. I liked it because he went from being like the typical Hugh Grant gentleman, like, oh, I'm just a proper fellow, you know, and then he betrays him, and then he becomes like, I don't know, maybe one of the biggest assholes in cinema this year. Like, he became pretty unlikable at a certain point in the best way, like
in a great way.
Yeah, like in a really fun movie-going way, like.
Totally. Yeah, but I was just, and also, I think the characters are like really likable, and I always think it's a good testament to a movie. If you have a group of characters, and if all they were doing is shopping at Target, you'd still be entertained. I feel like that's always like a pass. Okay, you've got good characters in this.
Sean Baker.
Exactly.
I'm not calling out Sean Baker. I'm just acknowledging him. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, it is fair. Here's the thing. It passed the target test. I think the characters are entertaining and charming enough to where you could watch them show up at Target and it would be an entertaining hour.
Okay, so are we gonna? I think we should go ahead. Is that a thing already? The Target thing you mentioned, is that like somebody else's idea, or can
No,
we go
it's
ahead and
not.
trademark that? Okay,
I
so
just always have said stuff like that.
okay, cool. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna trademark that too, and we've got the Chris Pratt effect, but also the Bechdel test. You know, the Target test.
The Target test.
Okay, so we got the Target test.
Yeah.
This is good. This is good content. I think that people are gonna eat this shit up.
You know what would not pass the Target test? Skinamarink, because it has no characters.
I would hang out with that one weird demon thing that popped up on the screen for like 2 seconds for an unnecessary jump scare.
Dude, I'd hang out with the toilet.
The toilet disappeared.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you could only hang out with the bucket.
Okay. Fair.
Jesus.
So
Oh no, we're never gonna live down the ghost of Skinamarink. I don't think it's gonna be. We're gonna if we continue this podcast into 2030, we'll probably still be referencing fucking Skinamarink.
Yeah, because it was a communal experience.
It was a communal dumpster fire. It was sort of like we all watched a building burn down together, and like we were like, "Damn, that was kind of like a shit show, huh?" Like,
Yeah, but wasn't that interesting?
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Shared trauma.
Like here's my case for Skinamarink. Will I be talking about
I
Renfield?
don't want to hear the case for Skinamarink. I don't want to.
Will I be talking about Renfield at all next year? Probably not, unless I have to bring up a movie I think sucks a lot. Skinamarink, though, I will still be like, man, I just don't even know about that.
I just really want to be clear to the listener here that this moment is not the first time that Brett has tried to make a case for Skinamarink. So if you thought I was being a dick earlier when I said I don't want to hear the case for Skinamarink, this is maybe the 10th or 11th time that Brett has gone, well, but hold on, because I can think of a reason why I would watch Skinamarink instead of doing thing X. And I'm like, okay. So you'll have to forgive me if I sounded like a jerk a second ago, because I think this is also going to be a recurring thing. The Skinamarink test of like, is this movie worse than Skinamarink? My answer is always going to be a resounding no, because Skinamarink was really bad.
And my answer is going to be Renfield exists, Cocaine Bear exists, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania exists.
And if somebody paid me money to watch those movies again, I would do it. But if you paid me $100,000 to watch Skinamarink, I would use that money to leave the state before the movie was over.
Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania was so bad that we didn't even bring it up when we were going over movies. I didn't even bring it up that it was a movie that I saw and you had it. We just now got brought up.
Well, here we go.
And that's the respect that Jonathan Majors deserves. Anyways, what's your number 3?
Speaking of Jonathan Majors, I don't know if that's a good segue or not, but anyway, my number 3 is 80 for Brady.
Wait, what? Speaking of Jonathan Majors, the man.
It was the closest thing I could do to a segue, man. You didn't give me much to work with. So yeah, no, 80 for Brady. This is gonna. I think this is a really good. Well, no, you know what? I'm gonna save that for my number 1. The whole point we were talking about earlier about my take on movie reviews. We'll save that because it plays into my number 1 for sure. Also. But 80 for Brady is just a good, fun fucking movie. It's just a fun movie. Remember how I was saying Cocaine Bear? I was thinking it would be just a fun, turn your brain off, watch a bear do cocaine. You know what? 80 for Brady was that kind of fun, turn your brain off movie. You want to see these ladies go to the Super Bowl and have a kooky little adventure on the way there. In the spirit of like Golden Girls or something. That's what the trailer promised, and that's exactly what we got. It was a fun movie, and it wasn't trying to be anything like life-changing. It didn't think that you were going to walk out of that theater in tears from a changed experience.
But I did.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And we love movies that don't assume that of us. And 80 for Brady is one of those movies. It's just a fun movie. Like I don't know what to say. I know why people would be like, I don't care about this movie. I like why it wouldn't speak to them at all. And I would say, fine, don't worry about it. Because if it's not the kind of thing that speaks to you, it speaks to me. I frequently rewatch Golden Girls because I just like that kind of humor. And this movie sort of hits those same notes for me. And I went into it wanting something like that. I got exactly what I wanted.
Nice.
Spot number 3. It earned it. And it was, I'll say this without spoiling the rest of my list, it was at spot number 1 for a very long time. Until like 2 weeks, no, maybe like last month, it was at spot number 1 until then. The very end of last month.
So, my number 2, are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
So, I have completely reevaluated this movie. My number 2 is Skinamarink. I think it's a piece of genius. I'm
about to hit stop on the recording. Are you being serious?
No, Paul, I'm kidding.
Okay.
But I got you.
I know. Look, I wish there was a way I could show the listener that my cursor was on the stop button. But we can't do that, unfortunately. So you'll just have to take my word for it.
Well, I wanted to continue on with the bit. Like, I wanted to go on for like 3 minutes until I'm like, Paul, I was afraid he was actually going to pause.
As much as I love a Skinamarink bit, we are at 59 minutes. It is 12:02 a.m. I do have to work tomorrow, unfortunately.
I do as well.
I'm gonna reel it in and ask you, what's that real number 2, Brett?
My number 2 is Evil Dead Rises. We
Hold
just
on.
saw this.
I want to stop you right there because that's my number 2 also, Brett.
Hey, let's go.
Let's fucking go. That's pretty good. We finally got one linked up.
We did.
We did it. That's good. That's really good.
So we talked about this briefly walking out of it tonight. We haven't really had a huge discussion about it yet, okay? Mm-hmm. This movie rules.
So good.
Okay? It is so good.
I love this movie.
It starts off and it perfectly captures the campy Sam era Evil Dead thing. Like, it does it really well. The characters here are nothing like too deep, but I don't need that. It's an Evil Dead movie. Who cares about that? Regardless of that, they actually made me care for the main character and her struggle. I think the whole movie is kind of an interesting statement about parenthood, but also a statement about how we're actually bringing children into the world that's a scary place where they could die at any moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's interesting. Like, I kind of, this is going to sound really bizarre because I really doubt anyone else is going to, like, get this from the movie, but it's just something that, like, I kept thinking about is, like, the whole thing weirdly feels like an allegory for, like, taking kids to school and wondering if they're going to come back home alive.
Oh, I'm totally on board with what you're saying, and I actually am going to take it a step further. I don't think that I think it's pretty heavy on being like a movie about pro-choice. There's so much there. I'll make a little list for you because I noticed stuff in the trailer and I was very much so expecting this from the movie. So when I saw it, I was like, yep, it went for it. Okay, spoilers. We're just going to rip that Band-Aid off right meow because I can't go into this list without spoiling some stuff. Okay, let's start with the fact that our main character, the first time we see her, she's doing a pregnancy test. Mm-hmm. Okay. Later in the movie, she is asked, "Are you going to keep it?" And she thinks about it and smiles and says, "Yes." Mm-hmm. She's making a choice, right? And the whole movie, the evil dead that are haunting her and trying to like get inside her head are saying things like, "That bastard baby, your unborn child," things like that. There's so many verbal references to the fact that she's pregnant. You have that scene where the mom, like the mother of the kids, is breaking eggs in a skillet just haphazardly. I'm not trying to take everybody to like intro analysis here, but I feel like you could easily make an argument for that being like a metaphor of abortion. An egg is
It's a chicken fetus.
Well, there's no fetus in an egg meant for consumption.
Essentially,
but correct.
Yeah.
So just so people don't think
I
don't know how
I don't think it's actually a fetus. I'm saying that technically in the process,
it's a stand-in for something that they want to discuss, and then also you have the main character who doesn't have kids. She's going to see her sister who does have kids, is unhappily divorced, and like you said, brought these kids into this kind of awful, scary, nightmarish world. And I feel like there was a lot there. Like you said, there's a lot about parenthood for sure, but also I feel like there was a lot being said just about pro-choice, abortion, things like that. I'm probably just I'm sure that other people saw that, and I don't know. Do you agree with that at all?
I didn't see that particularly, to be honest, but I understand the point you're making. I was more so seeing it as and not saying indirectly was like gun control stuff. Indirectly, because of the idea of these kids are in consistent danger. And, I was thinking about even seeing some of the bodies lie on the floor and the little girl seeing that and being like, oh, kids have lived this. And again, I don't think people are going to take that away from the movie at all.
It's a very subtle thing. That's one thing this movie did well. And the stuff it wasn't trying to be subtle about, it wasn't subtle. But when it was trying to do a little touch, it really did it.
Uh-huh.
I thought that speaking of that, I thought that the kid actor was fantastic. She was, I usually am pretty judgmental of kid actors, not mean about it, but more so just if a kid's bad, they're bad, and I'm not going to pretend they are, and I'm not going to comment on it either, but I won't say a kid did a good job in a movie. I'll just probably ignore that. Mm-hmm. Or in Cocaine Bear, those kids were bad, and I have no shame in saying that someone should have told them they were doing as bad as they were, unfortunately.
Well, speaking of Sean Baker, Brooklyn Prince was in Florida Project, and she's fantastic in that. So I don't think it's her fault.
No, exactly.
Kids do bad things whenever they're in bad movies.
Yeah, bad direction leads to bad acting. It's just what it is. Because that movie sucked. But this movie was good, and I loved the kids, the kid characters felt like actual kids. They felt like real people. Crazy concept to do that in a movie, make your characters feel real. Sorry, I don't know who I'm throwing shade at with that, but it was good characters. Just everybody was cool, and I liked the neighbors too. The violence, shit, it was just so over the top and brutal. I think it's one of the most brutal movies I've seen in a few months. Maybe not. I'm not sure.
No, this movie's brutal.
It's up there.
I think that this is a widely laced, major budgeted film that has grotesque violence I haven't seen in a while in something that wasn't a indie horror film.
Yeah, a chainsaw being put into a head, and it doesn't really shy away from it.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. Because
in the first 10 minutes of the movie, a scalp gets ripped off.
Uh-huh. Because this is something that me and my friend Ben have been discussing lately about horror movies, is that a lot of them will have a violent thing happen and it'll be off screen because it's very schemish to what's going on, which is fine if you want to do that. But what I'm saying is this film has sequences where you're oh, they're going to pull away from that, and then they don't. And you're whoa, oh, okay. Yep. Yeah. And that's kind of what Evil Dead's always been about.
Well, I'll say this, actually. In, the elevator scene where the mom gets possessed, right?
Yes.
That's the same scene that's been in every Evil Dead movie where the forest in the other movies. Trigger warning for a word I'm about to say. I feel like if you've seen the other Evil Dead movies, you know the word I'm about to say. But where the forest basically rapes this woman. That didn't happen in this movie, but it was alluded to, and they cut away once like kind of her arms and legs were sort of pinned in position.
Yep.
And I was actually grateful for that. I was like, I don't really want to see that in this movie that seems to be very like mindful of women's struggles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I think that if that was in a movie and if I was a woman and I had struggled with that, the rest of the movie would be fine for me, but that scene would not be okay. So good restraint on them for not doing it this time in a movie where it would have felt out of place.
Totally.
Like with what was going on in this movie, it would have felt really out of place. And especially just where we're at in the world these days, you know. Like without going into that too much, because it really doesn't shy away. That's the only time it did, and I was glad it did. That was a time to show restraint. I liked. I think my favorite part was that scene with the hallway.
Yeah.
Where I think it was probably the most brutal scene, honestly, where she like rips the dude's eye out of his head
That
and
poor guy. Such a nice dude too.
yeah, like spits it down the other dude's throat, and then that part was pretty fucking brutal.
It was
Lots of blood and
oh, I think the most brutal part of the movie was the girl eating the glass and then swallowing it.
yeah.
Oh my word! I was like, what? It was.
She was really well. They were really good. I don't know. That character was good. That actor was good as well.
Yeah.
Like it's really solid, and I liked that the stupid thing was done by a character who would do a stupid thing like that. Like go ahead and tell them what your review was of this, because like it alludes to what I'm about to say.
I essentially said I would get on to the character for playing a record that they found abandoned in the middle of nowhere, but I would probably also do the same. Out of curiosity.
Right.
It's like, come on.
Like, I like that, you know, they set that character up as, like, they have turntables and they play records and they actually, like, scratch the records and junk so that you see, like, oh, they would just play a creepy-ass old record. That's in their character. They would do that. Whereas, like, literally almost anyone else, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know that if you're starting the movie playing LCD sound system, that you're gonna just play weird records.
Yeah, I did like that too.
Yeah,
the LCD sound system needle drop, that was pretty good.
it was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more I have to say about this movie. Is there anything else you wanted to throw out there?
Oh, it slaps. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I'll say really quick. At the very beginning. That the scene, you know, where they're at the lake or whatever, for a second, it was giving me some Stranger Things vibes for just a second, and then that went away, and I was so glad because I'm like, I love Stranger Things. I'm tired of everything being Stranger Things.
Yeah, totally. I think so. Have you seen Freaks and Geeks before?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, of course. Okay, cool. You know, the beginning of Freaks and Geeks, whenever it's like the cheerleader and the football, and the character's name is actually Brett. It's like, oh, Brett, I love, you know, I know. And then it goes behind the bleachers and we get the actual interesting characters.
Yeah.
Because it's setting up the fact that it's like, oh, this is going to be a show like Degrassi. It's like, oh, never mind. We're actually going to be focusing on kids who feel like they're real.
Yep.
I feel like that was very elaborate in this, too. Like, we got two really, like, schlocky horror type characters, because whenever it started I was like, are these seriously who we're following? You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah, a girl, her best friend, and the girl's boyfriend out in a cabin in the woods.
Exactly.
Like one of the most typical setups for a horror movie.
Totally feels like them being like, yeah, this isn't the type of movie this is. And then the actual characters were interesting.
I'll say this. I don't dislike that stuff. But think about this for a second. would the movie have suffered without it? Or would the movie really have even been that different at all without that scene at the very beginning and the scene at the very end? I feel like it would have been the same movie.
Probably. I just think it's I think it's clever.
It was fun, don't get me wrong, but
subversion.
it looking back, having seen the movie, it felt inconsequential.
I feel like that's their way of setting it up as a franchise.
Yeah.
And if that's what they have to do and they're not compromising the rest of the movie trying to set it up, I'm cool with that.
Oh wait, one last thing that I want to say. I swear this is like
Okay.
I loved the title card. I really loved the intro.
Yeah.
It was badass. It was so
sick.
good. Like I was like, yes, just not just the title card itself, but like the whole shot. Like it was reflected into the water where it looked like it was part of the environment. It was just really good. Like I loved that. When I saw that, I said this movie's gonna be fucking awesome. Like, and I was right.
Yeah, absolutely. So number 1, is this where we get into it?
Is this you can do that. I think that honestly I should do my number 1 first because you haven't seen it.
Okay.
And I can I'll quickly make my little, I don't want to call it a soapbox, but my stance on movies and movie reviews. My number 1 is A Good Person, starring Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman, directed by Zach Braff. It didn't get so very much attention.
I wanted to see it. It was gone in theaters.
Yeah, it just really didn't get a lot of attention, and I think that's a shame because I really, really, really loved this movie. I believe I gave it 4.5 stars, but I know I said when I did that, even in my review on Letterboxd, I'm pretty sure I say this is more than likely going to go to a 5-star, and I'm still feeling that way. I need to rewatch it again, but yeah, like I really enjoyed this movie for a lot of reasons. One, Florence Pugh is amazing in it. One of her best performances, in my opinion. I think it's Zach Braff's best movie. I did really enjoy Garden State, but I'm not one of those people who puts it in their top 10. So...
Are you saying you don't like the Shens?
No, I love this shit.
No, I'm kidding. I don't even like Garden State. I'm not gonna hold you on this opinion.
But no, like I liked it because it felt more mature than Garden State too.
Yeah.
It felt like Garden State kind of feels like a Poor Pitiful Me movie. And this movie is literally about zooming out of your own problems and realizing that other people have a lot of struggles they're going through too. Like, yeah, it is kind of a Poor Pitiful Me movie at a lot of points, but that leads to a discovery that other people have fucking problems, turns out. It's just a really good movie, and I know you haven't seen it, so I'm going to stay away from spoilers. Just know that it's a movie that it's about addiction and recovery and like grief. So it is a pretty heavy movie, but it's also very well balanced out. There's a lot of good humor. There was stuff that made me laugh pretty hard in this movie. Good music, really good character interactions. I really love when Morgan Freeman is talking to like his granddaughter in this movie, because it's just it feels like a real relationship. It feels like they really are grandfather and granddaughter. It's not like some boring like you're my grandfather. Like they don't say the things that a movie would normally have them say to each other. They talk like real people, and I like that. So yeah, again, I'll just leave it kind of basic for the sake of not spoiling anything for you, because I'd really like you to watch it and tell me what you think. Maybe we can do that on a later episode, but I 4.5 on this one. And I'll say really quickly, I always when I see a movie, I do take into account like the filmmaking stuff, like how well acted it is, how well shot it is, how good the script is. I think I take all that stuff into consideration. But really, at the end of the day, if a movie speaks to me, it doesn't have to be the most perfectly made movie. And even if it was just in a moment, even if it was just like it really hit me where it needed to in a certain moment or certain time in my life where I was going through a particular thing or where I was dealing with a certain kind of like mental headspace, you know, and it just like sometimes a movie finds you at the right time and really like gives you just what you needed. This was one of those movies for me where I could easily understand other people being like, I thought it was a little boring. I didn't really care about it. It's fine. I enjoyed it. I had a good time seeing it. I would watch it again. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Again, it's been on my list to check out. It was in theaters for approximately 3 seconds. So I will find the time to watch it.
Yeah, I think I saw it like either the first day it was out or one of the first days it was out. So I'm glad I did because apparently that was like the only time it was there.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, wasn't it like an artisan select or whatever the hell they call it?
Yeah, but usually AMC tries to keep artisan selects in theaters. That's the entire point of an artisan select.
Right.
Yeah, so
it's like
weird.
giving it a safety.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it just didn't do well, but I feel like it would have been a good movie for a lot of people to see. I think it's a really helpful movie.
Nice.
Yeah, like it's got a lot of good things to say, and I think it's despite what I said about the subject matter being what it is, I think it's a good movie if you are having troubles with that. Whereas like Requiem for a Dream is sort of like a rude wake up call that you need to change things. This is more of like a friend giving you a hug and telling you like, I'm here to help you out. You know, I got your back.
And sometimes we need a hug instead of Darren Aronofsky.
Correct.
I want that to be a shirt. Okay.
Sometimes you need a hug, but all you get is Darren Aronofsky. There you go.
Gosh. So, my number one.
All right, I know what it's going to be.
Gosh. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry about what I said earlier, but
Brett is afraid of this conversation.
It's fine. No, don't be afraid.
So, Beau's Afraid is my number one of the year. This is the movie for me that, like, at the end of the year, I always do a 10 retrospective list. This is the only one that's come out this year that I see being on that list at the end of the year. Because usually all my favorite movies come out within the last 3 months of the year. It happens every year.
Okay.
All right. So, and then a few of them will stick around. I feel like this is the one that's going to stick around for me. One of them.
I really don't want to completely derail you here, but I would be interested if you went back on some of those old rankings from like a long time ago, look at them and be like, do you look at those every so often? Or?
Totally. Okay, I update them too. It's usually how it works is it's actually usually half of them come out first part of the year, half of them come out second part of the year. That's usually how it works.
I think I updated my 2022 list recently. I added Pearl on there and put it spot number 1, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
I think. Let me look, because I can't. I know I struggled between that or Babylon. Yeah. Sorry, dude. I'm derailing you so bad.
No, you're good.
Let's get back on track. I'm so sorry. I'm afraid that I did that.
Paul was afraid. So Beau's Afraid is a movie that I have been very much anticipating for a long time because I think both Paul and I are huge fans of Ari Aster. And this movie, number one, I just want to say first and foremost, I absolutely hate the title. I think it's trash. I think most of the posters are pretty bad too. But the trailer was cool. And
still having seen the movie, I don't think Disappointment Boulevard would have made any fucking sense as a title at all.
No.
So I get why they didn't do that one.
Yeah. Here's what I will say about this movie. The first, I would say maybe 2 hours of it for me is a perfect 10. This front to back, I immediately was really taken aback by how the film was able to put you into the mind of Beau. And I was, weirdly enough, kind of what you're saying about a good person, I was feeling a lot of revelations about myself seeing Beau go through these things. And there was this idea of like the horror of the scene being him having to cross the street in a place that he is unfamiliar with and buy water and not his credit card declining. And it sounds like a weird moment, but the way they're able to build tension in that sequence makes it the most horrifying thing I've seen in a movie in a long time. And also because it resonated. As someone who has made a lot of big moves within my life within the past year and a half, that sort of fear of even going outside was something that I already connected to quite a bit. And then the movie continues, and there's an entire sequence with Nathan Lane. And I just thought it was really funny and really biting and weird. And then there's a sequence that involves a forest, which I was telling Paul before this, is one of my favorite sequences of film, point blank period. I love it so much.
We can go ahead and do spoilers, right? I mean, we've both seen this. If you,
yeah.
Well, I can easily put tags in whatever we upload this to so that people can skip it if they don't, because it's a pretty new movie. It literally isn't even technically out yet, right?
I guess technically it's tomorrow, but
yeah, because today's the 20th. But yeah, we saw you saw it 2 days ago, but I saw it today.
Also, seeing this movie on an IMAX screen was insane.
So that's something I would like to do. I do want to see this movie again, and I do want to see it in IMAX. So it really added to it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a spectacle. It really is.
Cool.
But the sequences in the forest, and it reminded me the most, and I said this in my Letterboxd review, is this to me feels like the aged up version of the Where the Wild Things Are story. Mm-hmm. It is this guy who ends up going into this magical island to process his own feelings, but instead of being an 8-year-old boy, he is like a 40-year-old man who is slowly deteriorating because of a guilt complex. And being someone who has deteriorated because of a guilt complex, it related to me quite a bit in ways that it really shouldn't have. So I felt a little called out throughout a lot of this movie. That being said, there's a specific moment where he finally shows up to his mom's funeral and he's seeing all these pictures of them on the wall as it plays her favorite song, which is Sentimental Lady, I think, from Bread, or maybe I'm getting that wrong. It's a classic yacht rock favorite. And I thought that the movie was going to cut and go into and I'm telling you guys, if it would have done that, top 50 movies of all time, 5 out of 5. I would have been screaming about this movie, okay? Yeah. It goes on for an extra 40 minutes, and I think the extra 40 minutes is a little unnecessary. I'm still fascinated by the whole thing. I was still entertained by the whole thing.
So just to be clear, where exactly would you stop the movie again?
I would stop the movie right when he's just looking at the pictures. And it's playing that song. And I would cut it with that song still playing and in the credits. Okay. That's where I would cut it.
But that's a very different movie.
It is. I mean,
it's an incredibly different movie.
I mean, it is and it isn't.
Because that makes it less weird.
Sure.
That it makes it a little too nice and neat.
But like at the same time, not everything gets resolved in that version either.
Not everything, but that's the thing though, is okay, so like he knew he was doing that. Like he knew he was, like, the way that you feel about it, and I'm not saying you're wrong in the slightest. He wanted that though. He wanted it to not be a traditional structure, and he wanted it for you to feel like at a certain point that everything should be done, but then things get even worse. Yeah. And I'm fine with that. I just think the things getting worse doesn't bring anything particularly new to the table that we haven't already learned as an audience watching the movie. I think essentially, like... Well, just like his mom's level of hatred for him. His mom really hated him. You see, because here's the thing. I don't even know if that's accurate. You don't think so? In the headspace, I feel like this is all personification of him. I think as someone who
has a lot of anxiety and stress for the way that people perceive them, they can see whatever version of someone in their own head.
Here's something I'm curious about. What do you think as far as, is there some point in this movie, was there a point in this movie where things stopped being real and they became imagined? Was there a thing where reality became blurred? Was there a fine line, or was it a pretty broad defining line? Do you think any of this really happened? What's your take on that? Because I mean, I could say something about it, but I just want to know what you think.
Okay. I think the therapy session at the beginning is real. I think there's parts in the apartment that are real. I think there's parts of it that are fake. I think when he gets hit by the car and he gets taken in by that family, the rest of it's imaginary.
Do you think he like died after he got hit by the car, or
I don't really know.
okay?
I don't think he died. I feel like that'd be a dumb, like, oh, he died and this is all like
A fever
purgatory, you know?
Have you ever seen spoiler for a movie that I'm about to mention? You ever seen the movie Stay?
No, I haven't, but I know what you're talking about.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But for me, like, as outrageous and weird as that sex scene is, where he finally gets scared, you know, he overcomes that fear that he's had because he believes he's gonna die if this happens to him. And then,
So that happened after the part where you would have cut the movie, correct?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
that's what I thought. Sorry, I saw it today and it's still all
yeah, no, it's a
around
lot.
there. Yeah.
The mother's monologuing, which I thought again was just kind of him highlighting themes that we had already learned in the film, just in my opinion. And then the testicle monster, which is kind of funny in conceit, but I also feel like is a little too on the nose. And in the whole scene where he is being kind of judged on the boat and being watched by an audience, I just think is a little too broad of a brush. And like you said, I really like the point you said about how the final shot mirrors the shot of you leaving the movie theater. That's really intriguing to me. I really like that. That's cool.
Well, yeah, because it's like the same thing was happening on either side of that silver screen, right? Like,
Yeah.
it's the exact same thing, but we're all just watching this dude struggle and suffer, and there's a meta commentary to be made about that, but I won't go into that at this particular point because I feel like I need to see the movie again before I can talk about it.
Yeah. But I guess here's my point. The rest of the movie, it's not just about generational trauma, but it's also about interpersonal trauma. It's also about being in your own head. It's also about fear of legacy, fear of remembrance. I think the movie's about a whole lot. And then in the last part, it's like, oh no, but just so you know, this is about generational trauma. And everything's about generational trauma.
I feel like though that there was something else though that isn't in that list of themes that you just mentioned, and it's there is this. To me, I noticed something about this movie, or maybe it's just my personal take on it, but like the people in the movie are not important except for the characters, right? Like that's just how it works in a movie. In this movie, you see these people begging him for help, specifically that one fucking guy at the beginning who follows him and bangs on the window, and he's saying, please help me, please help me. By the end, Beau is the one asking for help, and nobody's helping. They're all just watching. I feel like there's a commentary there, not so much on... There's a commentary on how we view the other of society and how we view people with mental illness, and also, like, taking the whole movie into consideration, a lot of the humor comes from us laughing at someone with a mental disability.
Sure.
Like, and I'm not just talking about Beau. I'm talking about, I can't remember the name of that guy that they were all... what was his name? Gene?
Oh yeah, the guy who
the veteran.
Yeah.
Yes, who was in the war with Nathan. Yes, that guy. through the right lens, nothing he did was funny.
Yeah.
It's scary and sad. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But it's in a movie where everything's so fucking ridiculous that people in my theater laughed, but I also noticed people kind of groaning a little bit. Like, you don't want to laugh at shit like that.
Yeah, no, but the humor in this movie is a defense mechanism, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
It's not a traditional ha-ha funny thing. It's more so like a, oh, what is this type of thing? I've never seen anything like this. This is a different sense of reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, but I say that to say, though, that, like, we're sort of laughing at people's problems, the other people's problems in this movie at the beginning. It, like, their weird-ass, ridiculous problems are so, like, detached from us. Yes. But we're watching Beau the whole time. By the end of it, we're supposed to, in a traditional movie, want to root for him and for him to get what he deserves or what he wants, one way or the other. In this movie, we don't get that, and neither does he. Right. Because he's just unresolved and, like, never got to make anything of himself at all. He was just Beau the whole time, and then he just is done. Mm-hmm. He didn't matter. Nobody saw his struggle. Nobody cared. So he's like the people at the beginning of the movie that we were just laughing at, but now we care. I feel like there's something to it. When I was that book Ant Kind by Charlie Kaufman, he talks a lot about, like, the unseen people of society in that book, and the filmmaker that is, like, the central plot point of the whole thing. That's his whole crux as a filmmaker, is that he made this long, indefinitely long movie that's, like, months and months long, because you can't capture all of the unseen people without doing something ridiculous and absurd like that. There's just too many people who are unseen and unnoticed and uncared for. And, like, Beau's just another one of those people, but there is someone who cares about him. But it's a complicated relationship.
Yeah. And not only that, I just feel like there's someone who cares about him that he cares so deeply about that he villainizes the person in his head because he can't live up to the expectations that I don't even, like, know if she's putting on Beau. Because here's the thing. Beau's mom on the phone sounds like a delightful woman at the beginning of the movie, right? Like, she just seems concerned and kind of, like, understanding until at moments that she doesn't as much. But, like, for the most part, she seems sweet.
Well, it's like the Keys conversation. That's when things changed. Because she was not being responsive. She, like, it sort of reminded me of talking to my parents on the phone, unfortunately. Like, where I'm saying something and I'm like, yeah, this is what happened. And then they're just nothing. And then you're just waiting for them to say something, like, and they don't. And then you have to be like, so what do I do? And they're like, I don't know. Like, it's just, that was effective to me, that the phone call in that moment where she just, like, basically didn't say anything. She just, like, should and could have, as a caring mother, been like, it'll be okay. We'll sort it out. But she took way too long to be like that. She just left him on an awkward pause, and then she's like, I mean, it's fine. Yeah. It's fine. I'll see you another time. It's fine. You know, like, very effective. I just don't know how we're supposed to feel about Beau. I don't know how we're supposed to feel about his mom. I guess I'm kind of going into my criticisms with the movie, because I want to be clear before I do, though. I didn't dislike the movie, but I didn't like it as much as Ari's other movies. I'm sorry, everybody. I just didn't. And I'm looking at my list of 2023, my ranking list, and I'm going to go ahead and pull this Band-Aid off. It is at spot number 6, Brett. It's underneath Infinity Pool. It's above Inside, starring Willem Dafoe.
Well,
but it is beneath. Beau is Afraid is beneath 80 for Brady, Dungeons and Dragons, and Infinity Pool.
Wow.
How do you feel about that?
That's the time. I mean, whatever. I don't know.
It's time to be alive.
Yeah.
No, I liked it. I really did. I really, really did. But here's my takeaways. My big takeaways. It was too long. It was, not for the reasons you said, although I kind of agree. I feel like here and there could have been trimmed so very much throughout this movie. It did not need to be 2 hours and 57 minutes. I don't think it did. And this is coming from somebody who loves Midsummer, loves the director's cut, loves Hereditary, and those are 5 out of 5 movies for me. I was genuinely excited to watch 2 hours and 57 minutes of Ari Aster, but by the end, I was kind of drained, and not in the ways that the film intended. I was just sort of like, that didn't need to be that long. I was like interested and simultaneously put off by some of the things that the movie was doing, because in some ways it felt like things I had seen before, and in other ways it felt like nothing I had seen before. It reminded me a lot of a similar energy to like Synecdoche, New York, plus like Enter the Void.
Interesting.
It's I don't know how to really explain it very well, other than to say it gave me that like weird sense of time not making much sense that Synecdoche gave me. And it gave me that sort of like head trip existential thing that Enter the Void gave me. So really like those. Also the Truman Show.
Yeah.
By the very end, the Truman Show. It was I was whatever about that. That ending part was too long. The trial thing, it was too long.
Richard Kind.
If they were gonna do that, it was way too long.
A Richard Kind moment.
Mm-hmm. I didn't like that we didn't get a needle drop at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
I was actually disappointed by that. That was my disappointment boulevard.
We needed the needle drop at the end of Hereditary. It's iconic.
It's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the one in Midsummer too. I listen to both of those songs all the time just because I love those movies and it makes me think of them and it makes me happy. Like,
yeah, no, I feel that.
And also, I hate doing this because I don't think it's fair to hold a director's body of work against them, especially when it's so good. But like, I was waiting for like that scene, that scene. Like, there's that scene in Midsummer. There's that scene in Hereditary where you're just like, fuck yeah. This is an amazing movie. I did not have that with Beau is Afraid.
I'm telling you, the forest scene, that was it.
Okay. Maybe that's on me then, because here's the thing with that. It happened in the middle of the movie. The moments I'm referring to in Midsummer and Hereditary are the end of the movie. So that's not the movie's fault.
Okay. So this podcast is going long. But
we're
this is
at
gonna
141. So I mean, like, it's fine.
Okay.
Like, I'll say this too. We have a lot to edit out from Danny.
Okay, because this is going to be a take that I feel like is going to spiral. I don't like the ending to Hereditary. I don't think it's great.
Can I ask why?
I think it becomes a much more traditional movie than it should have. I think...
What is traditional about a treehouse of naked old people worshiping a severed head?
Okay.
What is traditional about that, Brett?
1970s horror? He becomes the evil demon child at the end, and it ends.
Yeah, exactly. That's why it's good, because we don't know what's going to happen to him in the future. The Omen's boring because The Omen's good, but The Omen isn't as good as Hereditary to me, because you see what the Antichrist is capable of. I put that in air quotes in that movie. And honestly, he's just being kind of a little shit to a few random people. He's not sowing mass chaos like he should.
Yeah.
So I like to think that Payman in his new body sows utter chaos on the world as it deserves.
No, like sure. Like the visual of that is intriguing to me, but I just think like thematically it's kind of the part of the movie where I'm like, oh, all right, well, like sure.
Thematically, it's the most thematically resonant part. What?
I don't think so. Yeah,
Yes,
I don't think so.
no, it's called Hereditary. He is handed down a flesh crown and told you are now given this demon that has been put into your body, aka mental illness is the way I see it in the movie, because it's like the demons of our mental stress and grief and trauma and what they do to us. And he's been given all that now. He has new trauma. He saw his mom saw her own fucking head off with a piece of wire. Like, he's got brand new problems on top of all the other shit that he's gone through. His mom tried to murder him like multiple times in the movie, but then apparently before the movie, she tried to kill him once too. Doused him in kerosene and tried to light him on fire.
Yeah.
Like it's thematically so on point because he's wearing a crown. It's like you're the inheritor of the hereditary dysfunction. Here you go. I love it. I love that ending so much. It's one of my favorite endings in a movie ever.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so I'm not mad at you, but I love that ending.
Yeah, no, I guess I don't. It might sound weird. I just feel it's a little too clean, and I don't know exactly how I would change it. So, like, this is
the only thing I would change is adding more naked old people.
Fair. Case aside, I want to make this clear. I love Hereditary. I think the movie's a masterpiece. It's That's the only thing I can really pinpoint.
I think Act 3 of that movie is one of the best Act 3s ever. It's so good.
It is good. It is good.
It's just, I love that movie.
The moment for me is the decapitation. I remember seeing that and being like, "Oh, okay,
Which
this movie's
one?
working like that." The one with the little girl.
Oh yeah,
At the telephone pole.
I want to make a note here that Ari Aster, he's gone on record saying this though. He loves cutting people's heads off and removing people's heads. Man, he's crazy about it.
Yeah.
Doesn't it happen in every single one of his movies?
Yep.
Multiple times.
It's his feet fetish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His head's being removed. Well, I think he said something about that. He said it's one of the most viscerally upsetting things you can imagine. Having your head removed. It's like it's more visceral than even having your hand removed.
Oh, yeah.
It's you're gonna die. So, like, yeah, he talked about that. If you're interested, look that up because I thought it was a pretty fun little thing he talked about.
Anyways, so what's your Ari Aster power ranking?
Midsummer, Hereditary, Beau is Afraid.
I think Beau is Afraid, Midsummer, Hereditary.
Okay.
All close to perfect movies though for me. Actually, to be honest with you, Beau is Afraid is definitely the one that has the most flaws, but it's also the one that like kind of moved me. So it's just how. But like, Beau, Midsummer, Hereditary definitely in my 10 of the year for both of the years they were out for sure. Midsummer is still one of my favorite movie going experiences, but also Beau's Afraid's kind of up there too. So I don't know. Also, Hereditary was a cool theater going experience with me. I saw it with my dad, and we were the only two in the theater, and we were in the back of the theater. It was kind of perfect set dressing.
It's a perfect family film.
Yeah, no, my dad loved it. But
grab some popcorn and your pop, and go grab some popcorn, your pop, and some soda pop. And head on down to the theater to watch Hereditary in an empty theater.
Yeah. I need to make a letterbox list that's like really bizarre movies I saw with my dad. Because there's quite a few.
I've made some letterbox lists recently. Why am I getting my phone for that? I have letterbox pulled up on my computer right here. I have some lists that I made recently that I'd like to talk to you about. I don't know if... I feel like maybe I sent you one of them. But I have The Look of Discovery... And I kind of want some help with that. This is a list of movies that end with a close-up of the character experiencing some intense emotion or revelation. So you've got Pearl, Midsummer, Hereditary, because they all end on, Clockwork Orange and unedited footage of a bear.
Nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Put Guardians Volume 2 on it.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yep.
Good addition. Thank you for that. If you think of any others, just let me know. And listeners, if you think of any, let me know in the comments below.
Heyo, let's go.
All right. And I have this other list. I think maybe I sent you this, but I love this list, and it's called "Blondes Really Do Have More Fun."
Yeah.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They do really have more fun. If Beau was a blonde, you would have to put that on the list. No, I'm just kidding.
But did you see what I have on here?
Yeah, I saw.
Like the whole thing?
Yeah.
Because I've got like 80 movies on here now.
Yeah. And now he's gonna read them all off.
I'll read some of my personal favorites. I don't want to sit here and read all 80, but
For Brady.
80 for Brady is on there.
Nice.
I'm pretty sure.
You should.
Why wouldn't it be?
If it's not,
Jane Fonda's in the film.
It should be the first one on the list.
It's not, because Barbie is, fittingly. Well, I will add it. I don't see it. Anyway. So you got Barbie, Midsummer, Miss Americana, the Taylor Swift film, Paris, Texas, Jurassic Park, Legally Blonde, I, Tonya, Kill Bill 1 and 2, of course, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, any movie featuring Harley Quinn except for that one.
Which one?
The one from, what was it, 2016?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that one's not on here because I'm not putting that movie on any list. Promising Young Woman, Adventure Time.
Yeah, I mean, checks out.
Nirvana Unplugged in New York.
Okay.
I thought that one was pretty.
I thought you were going to say Nirvana, the band, the show at first, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Funny Games.
Okay.
Wedding Singer, The Muppet Movie. Because Miss Piggy,
Yeah.
she's an iconic blonde, and she really does have more fun.
For sure.
Tangled, any Disney movie with a blonde princess is on there. Bridesmaids, Hereditary's on there, of course. Don't Worry, Darling, and Hocus Pocus. Yes, those are some of my favorites on there.
Oh, my two favorite movies, Don't Worry, Darling, and Hocus Pocus.
Mm-hmm. They're very similar movies.
As in, they both suck, yeah. We're getting heated on the mic.
Oh, wait, hold on. Did you just say that you don't like Hocus Pocus?
I hate Hocus Pocus. I hate Hocus Pocus. It is.
We're at 1 hour and 50 minutes. We're gonna need to table this.
So
this is gonna have to be tabled.
You should go look up my star rating for Hocus Pocus right now.
Is it a half star?
It is a half star. I would give it a negative half star if I could.
You're gonna need to form your thoughts because I don't understand, but I want to understand, but I also don't want to understand. Anyway,
the Sanderson sisters, I hate them. They're all annoying, obnoxious, and I hate the fact that they have representation in the parks. It makes me very upset.
Look, we'll table it. We'll table the discussion. Just, I see this. You're ready to talk about this. I get that. Okay. I really do. I think that because I have a lot to say too.
So this is the same episode we bring up Lost in Translation, right?
I think it is. I think we should do it. So just for the record, I don't know if we've mentioned this on the previous episode, but there's a point of contention between Brett and I. I do not like the film Lost in Translation, and Brett really does.
It is like one of my 10 favorite movies.
Yeah, it's one of his top movies, and I really don't like it at all. And I the same way that he will bring up Skinamarink as a friendly weapon, I too will bring up Lost in Translation as a friendly weapon. And yeah, no, we've been having what was it the other day where I was like movies out that are better than Lost in Translation, and Megamind was on there. Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. That was the one that made you really mad.
Yeah, because that movie's not good.
You can stop because neither is Lost in Translation. So,
well, I mean, I would argue that like I think it's a hot take now to say Megamind isn't good, but I still don't love that movie. It really is. People love Megamind.
I'm not laughing because what you said is wrong. I'm laughing because what you said is right.
People love Megamind for some reason.
It happened. It really did.
Yeah.
like people memed about that movie becoming more popular, and then it just did.
Yeah,
Like,
it just happened.
like we did it. No, not we. I wasn't a part of that.
Oh.
I happily had nothing to do with it.
Literally, if you go to Universal right now, there's a wall that has Megamind on it.
They said, guys, we're not done yet.
Nope.
Oh my god,
Let's
that's
get a
so
Megamind.
crazy though. That's really silly.
It's really good.
I don't know.
It's
what to
really
think.
funny.
I don't know what to think about that. That's pretty wild.
So there's still no Shark Tail wall, though.
Well, there should be.
Uh-huh. They should just have Martin Scorsese fish on it. That's all I want.
Okay, so we're getting kind of into the. I guess we're almost at 2 hours. Probably need to like try and wrap it up. Do we want to do like a little segment or something to wrap it up, or
This is gonna
take
be
some viewer
called
questions?
Chris Pratt effect on location.
Chris Pratt effect on location. Well, no, I just think that next time we do this will be a lot sooner. Hopefully, we have an actual setup now, which is nice. That's why our audio probably sounds a lot nicer, because I haven't listened to our audio from the previous episode, but I doubt it's going to be amazing. Probably will be all right if I had to guess. But this is going to be nice and clean.
Yeah.
So we have a whole setup. We got microphones and junk. It's pretty cool. I feel like we're actually podcasting. You feel like we're podcast? I feel like we are.
It's pod racing podcasting.
I mean, we came up with a dope ass name.
Yeah.
Chris Pratt effect. Like,
Chris
that
Pratt
fucking
effect.
slaps.
Uh-huh.
I'm proud of that name.
Yeah.
Do you see now why? Like, I can show you the note where I just said possible podcast names and then Chris Pratt effect and then nothing.
Yeah, you're like,
I said that's it. I don't need to come up with another idea.
And that was inspired by the Super Mario Bros. Movie, the movie that we talked about.
It actually was inspired by that film. Chris Pratt inspires everything that I do. I was a hardcore atheist, and now I go and spout my cynicism at churches because Chris Pratt told me that I need to go to church.
I used to not hunt, and now I regularly kill deer because of Chris Pratt.
Sometimes I think about Anna Faris in the shower because of Chris Pratt. Are we gonna? We might need to cut that part. That's fine. No, we'll leave it. It's 420. She was in smiley face. It's all good. She'll be cool about it, I think.
Yeah.
Is he still married to Anna Faris?
No, he's not.
Oh.
Well, I was about to make the joke because he's now married to Katherine Schwarzenegger. Okay? I was about to make the joke that Arnold Schwarzenegger is now also my father-in-law.
Oh. I don't feel okay about that.
Every listener of the Chris Pratt effect, your father-in-law is now Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Are we gonna put that on a shirt? I think we should put that on a shirt. I think we should have some good merch.
Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what kind of dumb crap you would want to see on a t-shirt or a mug. Because I think the most important thing when doing a podcast is branding yourself and not having fun. I don't like it when we have fun in these discussions. I think we should only focus on the branding shit.
Exactly. I want the shirt that says, I want a hug, not Darren Aronofsky.
I think we really could get a line of shirts going and people would love it.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, I think it's worth thinking about. Let us know in the comments if you think that's an absolutely terrible idea and we should not do it under any circumstances.
Let's go.
Yeah, I think that this is really good, and I love that we have a nice, easy audio setup now, because I literally, if I wanted to, I could export this tonight, put a thumbnail on her, and upload this shit to YouTube, and we can start generating that content and those views and get those t-shirts sold, and maybe quit our daytime jobs and start doing sponsored ads for Athletic Greens.
And Nutella.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Does that mean that means we would get free Nutella? I assume, like we would get some money and free Nutella,
and we get free salmonella poisoning.
Well, can we? What if we aim a little higher than Nutella? What do you want to get sponsored by? Like if you could get someone to sponsor us and get a free product out of it, what would you try and get?
Steely Dan.
Steely Dan. Like what? Like the band?
Yeah.
Do you want them to play like a deathbed concert for you, like they did on, like they were trying to do with Bon Jovi on "It's Always Sunny"?
Yes.
Okay, that's a good use of that, I think.
Steely Dan sponsor
Steely
our
Dan.
podcast. I mean,
think I would want to
multiple
get
people from that band are now dead, but still, let's have it happen.
Ooh, you know what would be a really fun, funny way to get sponsored is to just get sponsored by a restaurant that's local to your town
Oh, yeah.
that you live in as the podcaster and be like, yeah, I mean, come on in. If you find yourself in the Orlando area, just come on into that place and mention the podcast and they'll give you 10% off your check. And then it's like, but you know, people who don't live anywhere near there are like, well, this is very skippable. I don't want to.
Yeah. People just
But I'm just doing it because I want to get free meals at that place because I really do love the Thai restaurant.
Can you imagine if people are going to You and Me Hot Pot, walking in and just screaming, the Chris Pratt effect? Okay, we're like 10%.
We're here from the Chris Pratt effect.
And you're like, what are you talking about?
We know Chris Pratt. We're friends of his. We saw Mario yesterday.
That means free milk tea, right?
Yes. All right. Well, I guess let's put we're at 158. Yeah, let's put a nice little wrap up on there. Next episode we will talk about Fantasia and Fully Cooley and
Heck yeah.
the movies and junk that we've seen in the meantime. I'd like to mention Beef. So if you happen to be able to get to watch that in the time between now and the next, I tell you what if we just make the next podcast when you get done with those things?
Okay.
What do you think?
Sounds good.
Sweet. All right. So yeah, next podcast we'll talk about Beef. We'll talk about Fantasia,
Beef,
and Fully Cooley. Masterpieces in animation, in my opinion. Spoiler alert on how I feel about it. All right.
Beef is my favorite Arby's TV show to ever exist.
What is?
Beef.
Oh.
It's sponsored by Arby's, right? They've got the beef.
I as somebody who's seen every episode, I can assure you that there is not one moment of that show that happens outside of an Arby's.
Well, there is one that where a man chokes on a Burger King burger, so you know.
Well, yeah, but that's still in the parking lot of an Arby's. Like he's in his car in the parking lot, like he made the stupid decision of going to Burger King, and then he goes and parks in the Arby's parking lot like an asshole. Who does that? Anyway, and then he chokes on his Burger King like he should because
Burger King doesn't have the beef. Arby's,
not even a little bit. Arby's has the meats, not just the beef, man.
The meats.
And this episode of the Chris Pratt Effect has been brought to you by Arby's. They got the meats, guys.
We got the meat. Nice.